Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Resource PNG. In tonight's edition, we have Mr. Kevin Byrne give an update on the Gulf LNG project. He speaks of the Inter-Oil Project Agreement, the planned development of the Gulf LNG project, and the economics of the LNG production. According to Mr. Byrne, it seems that PNG is poised to join the ranks of Asian LNG suppliers. Let us watch his presentation.
PNG is poised to join the ranks of Asian LNG suppliers. There's no doubt about that. We own a fair chunk of gas with the Papua New Guinea government, and we must never lose sight of the fact that the resources belong to the PNG government. We have a licence to monetise them, and that is what we intend to do. But we've got a fair chunk of it. Exxon's got a chunk of it. Oil Search has got a chunk of it, and there's plenty left. I'd like today just to talk about the PNG situation, and hopefully at the end of my presentation, and I'll have to gallop through it, we'll talk about the Inter-Oil Project Agreement, we'll talk about the resources in PNG generally, we'll talk about the planned development of the Gulf LNG project, which is obviously of interest to everybody here, and that's why I'm here. We'll talk about the economics of LNG production generally, we'll talk about our offtake agreements, where we're at with the final investment decision and the next steps to produce the project for the good of Papua New Guinea in partnership with Papua New Guinea, and I need to stress that. What Inter-Oil has done in its upstream success has revived interest in exploration generally around PNG. I'm not going to give you a death by PowerPoint presentation today. If you just take a moment to read that, what we've done is revive the interest in that. We've been very successful in Inter-Oil. There are some people in this room that have been close to Inter-Oil over a number of years, and they can attest to the success of how we operate. We are, just to give you some idea, a minnow in this business compared to others. Inter-Oil is a publicly listed New York Stock Exchange company. It's got a capitalisation at the moment of about 2.5 billion. It is small in terms of the countries that are in this business, but we do carry a fair degree of clout. In Papua New Guinea, that is the only place in which we operate, and we have offices in Houston, we have offices in New York, we have an office in Singapore, and we've also got an office in Cairns, as well as our major area of operations in PNG. Some of you may know that we have about 60 people in back-of-house activities in Cairns. There's been a bit of noise in recent times, and I'm very conscious of my PNG One talks who are in this room about the LNG project and the project agreement that was signed on the 23rd of December in 2009. I need to give the assurance of the company to everybody, and we've done this consistently, that we are working in accordance with the project agreement, and we'll execute the project in accordance with that agreement. It's a world-class project, and this Gulf LNG project is designed to produce in the first phase 8 million metric tonnes. The LNG project, PNG LNG project, at the moment is 6.6. And as we go through this, we'll talk about the additional capacity that we have. It will be internationally competitive, and we'll talk about some issues about the economics of this project as we go through. When we talk about state support, there has been, and I'll be upfront about this, some noise in relation to this project. Do we have the right partners, competitive partners? Yes, we will have. That decision is yet to be made, and it's well within the timelines as I'll describe. The state support we anticipate will come through very shortly. We are in dialogue with the Department of Petroleum and Energy, and one of my other roles, apart from being the Corporate Affairs Manager, is managing the licensing project for the Gulf LNG project. That is running the licensing perspective from the company in our relationship, our cooperative and corporate relationship with the PNG government, in particular DPE. State participation, as the Oil and Gas Act stipulates, the state has the opportunity to acquire 22.5%. They have nominated Petroman as their holder of that 22.5%, and we have offered them free carry of that 22.5% to be repaid, as you'll see with some slides, at a later time. It means that as opposed to the other project, the PNG government doesn't have to go and stump up their 22.5% at the outset, but rather it will be repaid over a 4-year period after the gas starts to flow. And the other issue is the market opportunities. Quite obviously, with what's happening in Gladstone, the recent announcement of other projects, Wheatstone, and the Ep36 project that was in the paper last week in Darwin, the Shell Prelude project coming online. We have to be very careful, and the PNG government has to be cognisant of the fact that there is a window of opportunity there for this gas to come on market. Presently, it's slated for the final quarter in 2016. That's a little bit about Interoil. We've been in PNG, as the slide says, for about 17 years. Our only area of operations is PNG. We view ourselves very proudly as a PNG company. We have 1,000 employees, and as I've just described, the number of offices we have around the globe. Importantly, as I outlined, you can't have a project without the resource, and increasingly we're finding in PNG that there is resource aplenty. It's a matter of how we discover it and what sort of technology we're going to use to bring that resource to market. If you have a look at the estimates there, the potential resources of the Elk Antelope field has been assessed, that has been completed. We're now operating in the Triceratops field, which is very, very positive. And as it says, the first case is for 8 million metric tonnes, and the second case is for 12. The first one is takes care of the agreement that we have, the development agreement with the government, which calls for 7.6. We have a estimate there of 8, so that takes care of that, and then there are plans to increase the monetisation of that field as we go forward. Triceratops field, as I've indicated, is to the northwest of Elk Antelope field. We're currently active in a program there. Obviously, when you have these development licences in PNG, there are agreed programs that you arrive at with the government, and we're evaluating that field now. We've had a tremendous result from the first Triceratops flow, and we're moving another well into position now, and that program is about 4 weeks behind schedule. And you need to understand, I haven't got any slides, but you need to understand in that part of the world, the weather really dictates the pace in which you move forward. Anybody that's involved in the program of evaluating resources in PNG will understand what we mean about the weather situation.
Don't go away, we shall pick up where we left off with that presentation after this short break. Welcome back to the program. Like any project, there is a timeline. Interoil certainly has a target with their project in PNG. Here is Interoil's Corporate Affairs Manager, Kevin Byrne, with the second part of his presentation, where he gives a detailed account of how Interoil plans to process its gas before export.
Importantly, we have probably the best record for exploration in PNG. This just gives you an overview of our project. The Elk Antelope field is up here. Presently we have 5 gas wells there. We'll be constructing for the project 5 gathering lines, infill lines, to a condensate stripping facility here. We then go along 2 lines we call a dry and a wet gas line down there. That's 124 kilometres in length. Inhospitable terrain, as you would probably appreciate. The condensate gets shipped from a facility here immediately to Port Moresby to our terminal at Napa Napa. I'll show you an overhead of that shortly, to be value added into product. The dry gas then is processed here and then loaded from the same facility here into ships for export offshore. This facility here is the gas plant, similar to what's outside of Moresby. We anticipate it will be built using the similar technology that Chiyoda currently are operating in Port Moresby, which is the APCI technology. So that's our project, and it's in the Gulf area of Papua New Guinea. This project here will have a similar impact on the overall budget numbers of PNG, but importantly is confined with the exception of the export of the condensate down to Port Moresby in the Gulf area of Papua New Guinea. For those of us who've been in Papua New Guinea and understand the Gulf area of Papua New Guinea, it is a much deprived area, sadly. It has currently a literacy rate of about 6% in that province. The infrastructure of schools and hospitals and aid posts are presently pretty well non-existent. Once again, a sad situation. And we're hopeful that this project will reverse that over time. It won't happen overnight, but it will reverse it over time. And I'll talk about the inflows of money to the various sectors from this project as we go through. This just gives you an idea of the capital expenditure comparisons of a number of projects that are going on around the world when they're scheduled to come online, the estimated expenditures. And the cost of production is in this right-hand column. That just gives you an idea of the attractiveness of this Gulf LNG project for both ourselves, our future partners and current partners, and also in particular the PNG government. You notice each is phased. We anticipate that phase one of this project will be for a two-train first phase to produce 4, and then a second two-train to produce the 8. Let's just talk about the timelines so that you understand where we're at. We signed the agreement here on the 23rd of December 2009. Some in this room were part of that process. And that just essentially gives you an idea of where we're at. As you can see, there you sign joint venture agreements with various partners, you sign offtake agreements, and you build the case for this project. It just doesn't happen overnight. You build the case. We're into tenders, we're into the bidding process at the moment, and where we're at, as I said, with the major partner, that is the world-class partner operator, we're about to make a decision about that partner and present that partner to the PNG government within the next 6 or so weeks. Importantly, you'll see down the bottom here, and it's something near and dear to the Chairman's heart, and that is the preliminary work that is required that goes back into this area here. And that is the work that is required on the socio-economic modelling, the work that is required with landowners, the work that's required, the liaison with provincial government, local level governments. It takes years to get it all in sync, and it takes years to get all the ducks lined up in a row with this so that there is community acceptance and national acceptance of a project of this magnitude in the Gulf area of Papua New Guinea. I can tell you now that 90% of that work has been completed. It's deliberate, it's methodical, and has to be accurate. With the great advances of engineering, technology, you can build a project anywhere in the world. You can build it upside down if you want to. But with countries like Papua New Guinea and other developing countries, If you don't get your relationships right with the people and you don't get your relationships right with the government, you just don't have a project. It's as simple as that. And we found that out to our pain, not Interoil's pain, but pain in Papua New Guinea and other developing countries time and time again. So this aspect of our work at the moment is most important. Okay, this is just a quick timeline to give you an idea of where we're at with this. First production is, as I said, in the last quarter of 16. This is when we signed the agreement with the PNG government. So we'll be FID ready in 4 years, which is an extraordinary achievement for a company our size. And when you consider a similar timeline for the PNG LNG project. So we're in there, we're competitive, and we're going to deliver. This is the integrated commercial map. I won't dwell on that too much because it's really not of great importance for this presentation, except that it gives you an idea of the structure of this project. You've got upstream, you've got midstream, you've got downstream. You've got offtake agreements, you've got financing arrangements and so on. They become quite complex, but they need to be transparent, and our partners, the PNG government and our other financiers along the way, need to see every step of this process.
Thank you for staying with us. When we return, we shall hear more of that presentation to see how the state of Papua New Guinea fits into Interoil's plans. Do join us after the break. Thank you for staying with us. We now continue with that interesting presentation by Interoil's Corporate Affairs Manager, Kevin Byrne.
If we now turn to the economics, and I'm whipping through this because I'm very conscious of the time, and we'll talk about the breakdown of the state's revenue in the expected case. And the baseline is up here. This is the total government project, this is the total cash flow for the government based on the 8, based on case 1. So this is the minimum based on current prices. So you can see the extraordinary amount of money that is going to flow over the life of this project. But in PNG, we talk about the PNG LNG project increasing, and Lloyd Bacani, the governor of the bank, is in a better position to give an accurate definition. I mean, increasing the gross domestic product of PNG the order of 40%. This project has a similar capacity. So you can imagine the revenues that are going to be available to the PNG government, and also, importantly, to people that reside in the provincial areas. I'll talk about that in a moment. I spoke about the position for the PNG government. We're very mindful of the constraints that any developing nation, PNG in particular, has in funding its budgets. So we've presented to PNG two options. The option that they take a 22.5% stake as soon as FID is declared and stump up the money, or alternatively, we have a situation where they have 22.5%, but it's a carry for the until the revenues start kicking in, and we estimate that it'll be repaid in a 4-year period. That gives you an example of the cash breakdown of the PNG government taken the first 10 years. When we talk about royalties and levies, let's just digress to that for a moment. This is this area down here, the yellow. With the PNG LNG project, there are, at current estimate, and we're still working on those, something like about 46 to 50,000 landowners in the project area for Gulf LNG. Here, in our project, we have of the order of 5 to 5,500. The revenues are still the same. to give you an idea of some of the challenges on the ground that we face, the average wage for a person in the remote Gulf area, and we're operating on the Parari River and the Vailala River and those river systems, small hamlets, small villages up and down those river systems. The average, and the subsistence economy is buoy and fish and so on. It's subsistence economy of about 200 to 220 US a year. That is expected. On average, some people get more in the PDL, the pipeline, and the area down the bottom, to go to about 80,000 kina a year. So you can imagine the issues that we're going to have to face in terms of wealth management, in making sure that the communities remain constructed, that they don't break apart, and we don't attract all sorts of other people with different schemes into the provincial area. So the need for us to work very closely as project developers with the provincial government and the national government for that matter is paramount. And this poses an enormous challenge for us as developers with our partners, the PNG governments, plural, provincial and national, and also people like Peter and the banks, to make sure that we have a system in place that we can introduce these people to the prosperity that they deserve and the prosperity that's going to come their way in an ordered, sensible fashion. Otherwise, the social consequences are a disaster. Obviously, with every project, you need offtake agreements, and they're the offtake agreements that we have in place at the moment. None of them are binding. They are agreements as such, and obviously once FID is declared they will become binding. They are subject to obviously FID, which, as I said, we will be moving towards very, very quickly. Here we go now. We anticipate, as I said, to give you a timeline of partner arrangements with the major partner, and I'm happy to answer some questions about that without giving away confidential information, quite obviously. We anticipate that to take place August. Agreement with government after the government is formed and ministries in place and due diligence. We anticipate October, November. And then we anticipate FID in about December, January. That's our current timeline thinking. Before you get to FID, quite obviously, there's massive expenditures, massive acquisitions. Most of the work, in fact all of the work, is exploratory, but there's no project preparatory work. You can't do that until such time as you have a project. We're moving forward, obviously, as I've already explained. Heads of agreement for the offtake are there. The investment banks, as I said, are in the final throes of bringing forward the partner who has also access to the prospective partners that have signed confidentiality agreements, have access to our vault. With all the licensing documentation, all the other due diligence requirements. They have access to that, and the three banks will be making a recommendation to us in the very near future. This is an overhead, as I described, of Napa Napa. That's our current oil refinery facility. This was in the early days of construction. This is a shot of one of our areas that we base our exploration programs from at Herd Base. That's the Parari River there. Most of this area is where we're operating from is flat, but then where the gas is at elk, antelope and triceratops, it starts heading off into the highlands of PNG. For those of you who know anything about the geography of that wonderful country.
We shall have more on that presentation after the break. Do stay with us. If you have just joined us, we are viewing a presentation from Interoil about the development of their gas project. There has been much media reports about Interoil's final investment decision on the Gulf LNG project. Here is Interoil's Corporate Affairs Manager, Mr. Byrne, with an update on that FID.
Okay, this is our priority at the moment. The development plan and integrated timeline has been presented to the PNG government departments. The PNG government has been presented with the economic models and the funding requirements. The draft gas agreement has been filed with the state, and we yet to receive that back with their comments. Geotech works have been completed at the site, at the bluff, and also where we plan to build the gas conditioning plant. All the work's been done, and in fact contracts are about to be let for the pipeline route, that 124 kilometres I spoke about. The access roads for the gas aggregation and collection areas up in the PDL from those 5 wellheads, those access roads have been completed. Okay, national benefits and content. 13 billion per annum. Increase in exports. 8 billion in revenue to the government. This is just a wonderful project for the Gulf of Papua New Guinea. Those of you who've been to Kerema recently, you'll find that that place is a shadow of its former self of 30 or 40 years ago. When I first went to Kerema, it was I was in PIR at the time, and that was in the early 70s. So that's 40 odd years. That was a thriving administrative hub. It now requires a hell of a lot of work. We currently have taken over the Kerema Hotel in a lease. We intend to base our operations there. All the CA activity, community affairs, socio-economic activity for this area here and along the pipeline has been conducted out of here. And the activity to the north up here in the PDL has been conducted out of Herd Base. The distance between the bluff where we anticipate putting the gas plant, the export facilities is here. That's about 35 kilometres to Kerema, to give you some idea. This is the Kerema Bay, what's called the Kerema Bay. It can be extremely rough. It can be extremely uninviting. So we have to be very careful how we build these facilities. Of course, the other thing of concern, and people need to be aware, we have GH&D working with us, and that is that we're subject, of course, to the environmental laws of Papua New Guinea that are modelled on the environmental laws in Australia. So the environmental impact report and the associated environmental impact statements that flow from that are extensive documents, have been extensively researched, and the majority of that work has been done out of Cairns. Quite obviously, I alluded to responsibilities. It's called the social licence to operate in Papua New Guinea. I alluded to the need for people like ourselves to be working with the various government departments, and more particularly the regional government down in Kerema, the Gulf Provincial Government. Now, how we do that is we form advisory groups and we work with them and we say, right, what are your infrastructure priorities for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? This is what we suggest. What we suggest we can help you with, and this is how we can help you develop a plan for your infrastructure development for the provinces, or for that province. Peter alluded to the big challenge facing Papua New Guinea, and that is the lack of capacity at infrastructure, at the infrastructure level across the country, not just here but across the country. And we really need to address that, and there is infrastructure development grants that flow from projects of this nature, and we must ensure with our partners, the PNG government, that they are used appropriately. First LNG on our current program will be in the third quarter of 2016. We'll have FID ready first quarter of 2013 at the latest. We will provide the proven technology that is required under the LNG agreement that we've signed with the PNG government in 2009. We'll have world-class design and construction. All our EPC operators will be world-class. They will have considerable experience, and more particularly experience in countries and conditions like Papua New Guinea. The operations, we're going to, as I said, conclude negotiations with an industry partner later this year. In about 6 weeks' time, and we've got offtake agreements already signed. So we're well placed at the moment to produce this wonderful project. Just to give you a comparison, the Hydes gas field is probably in that area there. It has a pipeline that goes down to the coast at a place called Kopi, turns left, near the Kumul offshore terminal. Also says offshore terminal. That distance is about 530 odd kilometres over land. Then it goes about 540, 600 odd kilometres under the water, along the seabed to Port Moresby, where it's processed about 30 kilometres outside of Port Moresby. Our project, on the other hand, is constrained up there about 150 kilometres from the coast. It's run along 124 kilometres of pipe all the way down to the Gulf at Kerama here, and then it's loaded offshore to ships that exported to Asia, and then the other part of it is the condensate that's loaded in barges and comes through to Port Moresby for value added to the PNG market. Now, we're the only supplier, Interoil's the only supplier, or not the only supplier, but we have the only refinery in PNG, and we have outlets for 54. We have 54 outlets, including airports, outlets, for example, we've gone back into Bougainville, service stations and so on. So we power, if you like, Papua New Guinea, and we proudly do it from our oil refinery or our processing facility at Napa Napa.
It was interesting to note that the national benefits will mean approximately 8 billion kina in revenue each year. After the break, we have an interview with Interoil's corporate manager, Mr. Kevin Byrne. Welcome back to the show. Here is an interview I did earlier with Mr. Kevin Byrne, who talked about Interoil's Gulf project. Good evening. Tonight we have the Corporate Affairs Manager of Interoil, Mr. Kevin Burns. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, and it's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you here. So tell us, what's the progress so far with the project, Interoil's LNG project?
Look, we're continuing on in accordance with the timelines. We're about 6 months off declaring FID for the project. Various components of the project have been costed, and you could fairly say that some parts of that have already achieved FID. For example, the pipeline that's been worked through, and we're now in the final stages of getting bids in for that. But the entire project has various segments, and the entire project we anticipate will declare FID in the first quarter of 2013. That's well within our timelines. And we will have our major partner, operator of the project. We will know that group or individual company in the final quarter of 2012. We've been delayed a little bit, as you'd imagine, by the uncertainties surrounding the latest election process. But we believe that they're behind us now, and we look forward to a positive outcome there, and then a positive move into the final phase for this project.
All right, so for the sake of our audience, what fields are you working on? Where exactly are they? What are they located, and where are they located, and what's the potential output for each one of them?
Well, this is essentially a project based around the Elk Antelope gas field, which is inland from Kerama. about 140, 150 kilometres northwest of Kerema in the foothills of the Southern Highlands province. So that's where the gas fields are, and there's another gas field that we're exploring and assessing at Triceratops, which is further to the northwest than the current elk antelope field. But the elk antelope field is the field that this gas project is based upon. So it's up there, and then there's a gas pipeline that will run 124, 125 kilometres down to the coast. And at a place called the Bluff, 35 kilometres to the west of Kerema, is where we'll be processing the dry gas into a liquefied gas to go on ships to the overseas market. And what we call the wet gas, the condensate, will then be barged to Port Moresby to our refinery at Napa Napa. That in essence is a pictorial description of our project. By comparison, for your viewers, in comparison to the PNG LNG project, it is a smaller project in terms of the infrastructure required and the geography, but the output is the same, if not bigger. So it's a very, very important project for Papua New Guinea. It's certainly an important project for Interoil, and we're looking forward to developing that project with our project partners and the PNG government.
Just based on those figures you gave me, the PNG LNG project covers a certain distance, and what your project is a lot smaller. I think in terms of population and distribution and the benefits of the people, there's a difference there too. Are you able to talk about that?
Yes, I am. Look, I'm not privy to the final figures of people who are classified as landowners in the PNG LNG project, but it is substantial, of the order of 50,000 beneficiaries under that classification. So, and they're spread over a wide geographic area. That brings obviously its own problems of management. In our particular case, our beneficiaries number about 5,000. It's over a smaller area, it's a more manageable process, and hopefully we've done enough work and thorough work at the front end of assessing who these landowners are. The clan identification studies have been done, the definition of who is a project landowner has been worked. The issues about land ownership and so on have been worked. So we're about 95% complete in that aspect, because as the point I made at the presentation was, you can build any project anywhere. The engineering and technology and so on allows you to do that. It might cost a little bit more in certain parts of the world, but if you don't get your social side right, your land ownership issues right, the socio-economic issues in the project area right, then projects are doomed to fail. And so we've concentrated a lot of our effort in that area, and we believe we have got it right, and we hope we have got it right, and we're very shortly to present all those findings and all those investigations to the government.
Now for a more sensitive question. Interoil has come under media attention recently. What will be your position on the things that were discussed in the media?
Look, our position has been what the public discourse in the media has been unhelpful. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What we need to understand is when we make statements about resource developments and we make statements that are not in tune with the facts, it has a detrimental effect in areas long distance from Papua New Guinea, such as stock prices worldwide. Potential partners look and say, you know, there are some issues there. We need to sit back and wait until those issues are resolved. I made the comment about 6 months ago in Port Moresby at a seminar that it's unhelpful for anybody in the resource industry, be it Interoil or anybody else, constantly fielding grenades and throwing them back over the fence from whence they came. A lot of it is to do with understanding of the project. A lot of it is to do with understanding or lack of understanding of the process. And a lot of it is to do with a lack of coordination. I mean, all the information about this project has been available from day one. It is available, it's transparent. And we engage in discourse with various government departments, and it is incumbent upon those departments to pass on that information to their colleagues in various other government departments. When we find ourselves in this position and we engage and we bring everybody into the room that are supposed to be in the room, we don't have an issue. It is those people that we try to bring into the room that for whatever reason don't come into the room, and the argument gets mired in politics and jealousy that we have our problems. We hope we're through that now, and we hope to have a more constructive, if you like, relationship with a Department of Petroleum and Energy that is well staffed, well coordinated, well managed, and we also hope to have a more constructive dialogue with the ministerial side, and also with all those other government departments, particularly Treasury, particularly Finance, the Department of Labor, the Department of Environment, all those people. It's not just DPE in isolation. These projects cover the entire gamut of government departments.
Don't go away. After the break, we shall have the second part of that interview. Let us continue with that interview with Interoil's Corporate Affairs Manager, Mr. Byrne. So this project, it's going to mean, because Gulf Province is very sparsely populated, there's not a lot of people there, there's not been a lot of development in the last 30 years. When this project gets off the ground, what would it mean for the people there? What would it mean for the Papua New Guinea population as a whole? What would it mean for our government?
Look, we're very excited about doing this project in the Gulf. And the reason we're excited about it is because for anybody that goes to the Gulf, you would have to agree that it is a deprived area of Papua New Guinea. I know when I went there to Kerema for the first time in about 30, 40 years, about a year ago, I was shocked, to be honest with you. And although it's only 500 odd kilometres by road from Port Moresby, the road's out more than it is working. And you have if you have a look at the socio-economic indicators, for example, literacy rates, or they're at about 6%, and that's unacceptable because of the isolation of villages and hamlets and clans and so on. What will this bring to those people? It's going to bring enormous opportunity. It's going to bring, and let's be frank about it, enormous change. It's going to bring enormous wealth. And all those brings are going to involve challenges that we as the developer, government departments and the people need to come together to manage, because if we don't do it properly, then I would not like to think of the consequences. Now, I don't want to be too negative about that. I want to be positive about this. This is a project that's going to be wonderful for the people of the Gulf. It will mean better education. It will mean better health services. It'll mean better life expectancy. It'll mean better opportunities for all. And these are important aspects of PNG. PNG is developing into a two-sector or two-tier country. You've got those people where there are development projects are the beneficiaries. You go 100 kilometres outside of the major population centres and you find poverty and you find lack of opportunity and so on. And having projects in different parts of the country addresses the issues of inequality and addresses the issues of lack of opportunity. And we're really excited about having the ability to bring this project on in this very, I don't want to use the word underprivileged, but it's a remote, inhospitable and a place that needs more opportunity. So we're excited about it.
So the plans from here on, what have you got in terms of timeline? And also in terms of how exactly you're going to transport the gas from the gas site all the way down to export? Because I believe there's a different way you're doing this. We
believe to build the project will take us about 40 months at the outside. with projects of this size, you need a bit of luck. You need to make sure all your financial ducks are lined up, so you spend time at the front end doing that, and good weather and a bit of luck and acceptance of local people that the project should go ahead. Let's assume they're in place. We're projecting our first gas in December or the final quarter of 2016. And we're very mindful of the fact that there are other major projects in the world coming online around about the same time. So there's only that window of opportunity to get in and get the right prices for the offtake, for the benefit of people of Papua New Guinea and ourselves and our partners. So if we work backwards from that, we would hope to start construction of this project in the second quarter of next year. And we will have final investment decision for the project. Parts of it have been done, but for the project in February, March 2013, commence construction and have the first export gas into a ship by December 2016. It's ambitious, but this is an ambitious project, and we believe we have the wherewithal, we'll have the right partner, we'll have the right operator, and as I said, with a modicum of luck, we'll be able to produce it.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with regards to this project?
Look, I think this, like the PNG LNG project, is a world-class project. PNG is emerging as a world-class nation. It's got a ways to go yet, but we're getting there. And it's a project that the PNG people should be very proud about. Not only that, but from a government perspective, it's important that these projects are allowed to proceed so the revenue streams come to government to do all those wonderful things that revenue streams of the nature that we're talking about and the huge volumes are allowed to produce a better life and a better outcome for people of Papua New Guinea. So we're excited about that. InterOil only has its operations in Papua New Guinea. That's where we operate exclusively. We're very proud to employ 1,000 Papua New Guineans. We're very proud of the fact that we power the nation, and we want to continue our involvement in another field now, and that is the very exciting field of LNG production. And we're pleased to be involved in it, and we look forward to a great relationship with the government and the country.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
That's all we have for tonight on Resource PNG. If you want to know more about the program, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg, or check MTV online, that's www.mtv.com.pg, and go to our Resource PNG page. Until the same time next week, have a pleasant evening.